Hey everyone, this is our lesson on classification, specifically taxonomy. And with taxonomy, we're looking at our branches of biology, basically, of life. So classification is defined as the grouping of objects or information based on similarities. So we look at, molecular biology, DNA. We can look at homologous structures, things like that when we look at these areas of classification. And when we look at this, we need to understand and know who's kind of the father of how we classify species, and that is Carl Linnaeus. And he wanted to classify all known species. And Linnaeus's classification system went from largest classification type to smallest classification type. So the largest is the domain, which would be archaea, bacteria, or eukaryote. We've got kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. And when we look at these, we will see that the names are kind of labeled off of these last two, the genus and the species, because it's two Latin names here. So as you move into the smaller boxes, the characteristics get more and more specific. Whereas a lot of things can fit under the same domain, but not necessarily the same species. So how you can remember this process or this order is do keep pretty clean or feet get smelly. And that gives you the first letter of each level of classification here. Another way is Dear King Philip came over for great spaghetti. So you can look at a couple different anagrams here to help you remember those. So the classification for humans, first we fall under eukaryotic, which is true because our cells have a membrane, our cells have a nucleus. Then our kingdom is Animalia, our phylum is Chordata, our class is Mammalia, order is Primates, family is Hominidae, I can't say it. Then the genus is Homo and the species is Sapiens. So you've heard that humans are called Homo sapiens. That's why we go by our genus and our species, because those are the two most specific areas of the classification order. So now that we know a little bit about classification, let's talk about taxonomy. And taxonomy is the branch of biology that groups and names organisms. So scientific names of an organism are the same no matter where you are in the world. So all humans are Homo sapiens, right? Not just because we're humans in America or humans in Europe. We're all Homo sapiens. And when you name a scientific name for a species, an organism, anything like that, it is a binomial name. Bi means two, nomial means name, so a two-name nomenclature. The language that we use is Latin, which is a dead language, but we still use it here for our naming purposes. The first word that you always say is the genus. The second word is the species. The genus is always capitalized. And then the scientific name is underlined or italicized whenever you see it in some sort of writing. So some examples of scientific names: Homo sapiens. Okay, so those are humans. Panthera tigris, which is a tiger. Okay, and then our order of taxonomy is the same as our classification, because taxonomy, again, is just how we name. We use the last two orders of our classification to get to that point. And we have larger groups up top, obviously, in the domains, the kingdoms. Lots of species fall into those categories, and then we get more and more specific as we get down to the genus and the species, which would be the most alike. So at the top, the domain is very broad and includes many organisms, but the further down you get, the species become more and more similar. So here is an example. So we can have in the same domain or kingdom, in the same kingdom, we have grizzly bears all the way down to starfish, all right, because they're all animals. But then we get a little more specific where we get into the Chordata family. And then from there, we get into the Mammalia, which gets rid of the snakes. And then from there, we get in the Carnivora, which gets rid of the squirrels because they are not carnivores. Then we get to the Ursidae, which gets rid of the fox. Then we get to the Ursus, which gets rid of the panda. And then we've got Ursus arctos, which would be like the polar bear or grizzly bear here. All right, guys, so this is just a quick lesson on